My fiancée said at our engagement party, "Good thing your mom disastrous ed, or I wouldn't have your dad." I called off the wedding. So, I'm 43, a dad of two. My son, Sam, is 21 and figuring out life at college. He's the kind of kid who's always been older than his years. And then there's Liz, my 16-year-old daughter, who's, well, let's just say she's in that classic teenager phase where I'm not sure if she loves me or just tolerates me because I pay for her Spotify premium. Parenting teenagers is wild, by the way. One minute they're begging you to check out their favorite show, and the next they're rolling their eyes so hard you're worried they'll get stuck. I became a single dad 6 years ago when my wife, Kayla, passed away. She was hit by a drunk driver on her way home from picking up groceries. I'll never forget that night. It's like your whole world just stops. Kayla wasn't just my wife. She was my best friend, my teammate, the person who made life make sense. Losing her left this massive hole in our lives. Honestly, I didn't know how I was going to do it, raising 2 kids on my own while trying to hold myself together. But we managed. Barely. For a long time, it was just the 3 of us against the world. I made a decision early on that I wasn't going to think about dating until the kids were in a good place. It wasn't some big, grand sacrifice or anything like that. It just didn't feel right. They'd already lost their mom. I wasn't about to throw someone new into the mix when we were all still grieving. So I focused on being there for them, even if I was fumbling my way through most of it. And honestly, it felt like the right thing to do. Fast forward a few years, and things started to stabilize. Sam went off to college, and Liz found her groove at school. She's on the debate team now, which is both impressive and terrifying, because that kid can argue circles around me. Life wasn't perfect, but it felt manageable. And for the first time in a long time, I started thinking about myself. Not in a selfish way, but, in a maybe I deserve to be happy too kind of way. That's when Amanda came into the picture. We met through a mutual friend at a barbecue. She was warm, outgoing, and had this laugh that just made you want to join in, even if you didn't know what the joke was. She was also the opposite of Kayla in a lot of ways, more fiery, more outspoken. At first, I wasn't sure it was a good thing, but over time, I started to appreciate her energy. She made me feel alive again, like maybe I could have a second chance at happiness. We started dating, and things moved pretty quickly. Amanda met the kids a few months in, and well, let's just say it wasn't love at first sight. Sam was polite but distant, which is his default when he's unsure about someone. Liz? She was harder to read. Sometimes she'd engage, like when Amanda asked her about debate tournaments, and other times she'd clam up completely. Amanda tried, though. She really did. She'd invite Liz out for coffee or try to bond over shows they both liked, but it always felt a little forced. I figured that was normal. It takes time to build those connections, right? After 3 years of dating, Amanda and I got engaged. It felt like the next logical step. I loved her, or at least I thought I did, and she seemed like someone I could build a future with. The kids weren't exactly thrilled, but they didn't outright object either. Sam gave me this look when I told him, like he wasn't sure if he should congratulate me or ask if I'd lost my mind. Liz just shrugged and said, "Cool, I guess," before disappearing into her room. Not exactly the reaction I was hoping for, but hey, teenagers. Anyway, last year we decided to celebrate our engagement with a small dinner party. Nothing fancy, just close family and a few friends at this cozy Italian place we love. I thought it would be a good way to bring everyone together, maybe even help Amanda and the kids bond a little more. I mean, who doesn't love pasta and wine, right? The night started off fine. A little awkward, sure, but that's to be expected when you throw different parts of your life into one room. Sam was cracking jokes like he always does when he's trying to break the tension, and Liz was glued to her phone, probably texting her friends about how lame the whole thing was. Amanda was doing her best to keep the conversation flowing, asking Sam about college and Liz about her debate team. I thought, okay, this isn't so bad. Maybe tonight will actually go smoothly. And then it happened. Amanda made the comment. The one that, in hindsight, should have been the final nail in the coffin. We're all sitting there at the dinner table, plates of pasta in front of us, glasses clinking, the usual polite chatter filling the room. I was just starting to relax, thinking maybe this dinner wasn't such a bad idea after all. Sam was talking about some absurd prank his roommate pulled at college, and even Liz looked vaguely amused, which is saying something. Amanda was laughing along, and everything felt normal, Like for one fleeting moment, we were just a regular family having dinner. And then Amanda decided to make a joke. Now let me just say, Amanda has always had this particular sense of humor. She's the type who says things that are a little edgy, a little provocative, but usually it's harmless. Usually. But this time? Oh man. This time, I don't know what she was thinking. She raised her glass and said, with this little smirk on her face, "Well, I guess it's a good thing Kayla's gone." Huh? Otherwise, I never would have gotten a shot with this guy. I swear you could have heard a pin drop. My brain kind of short-circuited for a second. Like, did she really just say that? Out loud? In front of my kids? I felt this wave of heat rush up my neck, and my stomach dropped. I looked around the table, hoping, praying, that maybe no one had heard it. But no, they definitely heard it. Sam froze mid-laugh, his face going from amused to stone cold in a matter of seconds. Liz's eyes snapped up from her phone, wide with shock, and then she just kind of glared at Amanda like she wanted to burn a hole through her. My sister, who was sitting across from me, gave me this look like, "Are you seriously not going to say something?" And me? I just sat there like an idiot, staring at my plate, trying to process what the hell had just happened. Amanda, oblivious, or maybe just trying to play it off, laughed and took a sip of her wine, like she hadn't just dropped the most inappropriate, tone-deaf comment of all time. Liz was the first to break. She shoved her chair back with this loud screech and said, "I'm done," before storming out of the restaurant. I called after her, but she didn't even look back. Sam didn't leave, but the look he gave Amanda? If looks could kill, we'd be planning a funeral. Amanda finally seemed to realize she'd messed up because she turned to me and said, "What? It was a joke. You know, I didn't mean it like that." But by that point, the damage was done. The rest of the dinner was, well, it was a disaster. Liz never came back. Sam barely said 2 words, and I spent the rest of the evening feeling like the world's worst dad for not shutting that down the second it happened. When we got home, things went from bad to worse. Liz had locked herself in her room, and Sam was waiting for me in the living room. He didn't even give me a chance to sit down before he let me have it. "You're seriously going to marry her?" he said, his voice low but furious. "After what she just said about Mom? Are you kidding me, Dad?" I tried to explain, tried to tell him it was just a bad joke, but he wasn't having it. A joke? That wasn't a joke. That was disgusting. She doesn't respect Mom, and she sure as hell doesn't respect us. You really think someone like that belongs in this family? And, honestly, I didn't have an answer, because deep down, I knew he was right. After Sam unloaded on me, he just shook his head and said, "You need to figure this out," before heading upstairs to his room. I just sat there on the couch, staring at nothing, feeling like I'd been punched in the gut. The thing is, Sam wasn't wrong. Not even a little. But admitting that to myself in that moment, that wasn't easy. I didn't sleep much that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I'd hear Amanda's voice saying those awful words again. And then I'd see the look on Liz's face as she stormed out. I kept replaying the dinner over and over in my head, trying to figure out why I didn't say something, why I just sat there like a deer in headlights. Was I trying to avoid a scene? Was I worried about embarrassing Amanda? Or was it just that I didn't want to face the fact that maybe, just maybe, I'd made a mistake by bringing her into our lives? The next morning, I knocked on Liz's door. No answer. I tried again. "Liz, can we talk?" Still nothing. I stood there for a minute, debating whether to just leave her alone or keep trying. Finally, I said, "I'm sorry about last night. I really messed up, and I want to make it right. Please, just let me know when you're ready to talk." I didn't hear back from her until later that afternoon. She came downstairs while I was making lunch, grabbed a soda from the fridge, and just stood there for a second, staring at me like she was trying to decide whether I was worth her time. So, she finally said, crossing her arms, "What's your excuse?" Ouch. No warm-up, no small talk, just straight to the point. I guess I deserve that. "I don't have an excuse," I said. What Amanda said was wrong. Completely wrong. And I should have said something in the moment. "I'm sorry." She raised an eyebrow. "You're sorry? That's it?" "No," I said quickly. "I mean, yes, I'm sorry, but it's not just that. I've been thinking a lot about everything. About Amanda, about you and Sam, about what's best for this family. And honestly, I don't know if I've been making the right choices." That seemed to catch her off guard. She uncrossed her arms and looked at me, really looked at me, for the first time in what felt like forever. "You think," she said, her voice dripping with sarcasm, "because last night sure made it seem like you care more about her than us." Hearing that stung, but I couldn't argue with her. "You're right," I said. "I haven't been putting you and Sam first, and that's on me. I'm gonna fix it. I promise." She didn't say anything for a while, just stood there sipping her soda and avoiding eye contact. Finally, she muttered, "You better," before heading back to her room. It wasn't exactly a heartfelt reconciliation, but it felt like a small step in the right direction. Later that evening, I sat down with Sam. He didn't make me work for it like Liz did. He just came right out and said, "So, what are you going to do about Amanda?" I sighed. "I don't know yet." "Well, you'd better figure it out fast," he said. "Because if you think I'm going to stand by and watch her disrespect Mom, or Liz, or me for the rest of my life, you've got another thing coming." I nodded. "I hear you, Sam. I really do. And I promise, I'm not going to let this slide. I just need some time to figure out how to handle it." "Fine," he said. "But just so you know, I'm not going to pretend everything's okay. Not with her. Not after what she said." "Fair enough," I said. "And for what it's worth, I'm sorry. For last night, for all of it. I've been so caught up in trying to move forward that I didn't stop to think about how it was affecting you and Liz." He gave me a small nod, which, coming from Sam, was practically a hug. "Just don't mess this up, Dad." That night, I knew what I had to do. I'd been trying so hard to make this relationship with Amanda work, to convince myself that it was what I needed, that I'd been ignoring all the signs that it wasn't right, not for me and definitely not for my kids. The next day, I asked Amanda to come over so we could talk. She showed up all smiles, like nothing had happened, which only made what I was about to do even harder. We sat down in the living room, and I didn't waste any time. "Amanda, we need to talk about what happened at the dinner." She rolled her eyes. "Oh, come on. Are we really still on this? I already told you, it was a joke." "A bad joke, okay? I didn't mean anything by it." "It doesn't matter if you meant it or not," I said. "It hurt my kids. It hurt me. And honestly, it's not the first time I felt like there's been tension between you and them." Her smile faded, and she crossed her arms. "Tension? What are you talking about?" I took a deep breath. "I know you've been pushing Sam to move out sooner than he's ready. I know you've been encouraging Liz to go to college far away. And I know you've been trying to get us to spend less time as a family. Maybe you didn't mean for it to come across that way, but it's how it feels. And I can't ignore it anymore." Amanda's face hardened. "So what? You're choosing them over me? They're my kids, Amanda. They'll always come first. And if that's a problem for you, then maybe we're not as compatible as we thought." She stared at me for a long time, her jaw tight. Finally, she said, "Wow, I can't believe this. Do you have any idea how hard it's been for me, trying to blend into your perfect little family? I didn't sign up to raise someone else's kids, you know?" And there it was, the truth I'd been avoiding for far too long. "I think we're done here," I said quietly. She stormed out, slamming the door behind her. And just like that, it was over. After Amanda left, I just sat on the couch for what felt like hours. The house was quiet, too quiet, and for the first time in a long time, I was completely alone with my thoughts. No Amanda, no kids hovering nearby, just me and the realization that I'd been trying to force a puzzle piece into a space it didn't belong. It wasn't easy to admit that I'd been wrong, but there it was, staring me in the face. The kids came home later that evening. Sam had been at a friend's place, and Liz had gone to the mall to blow off some steam. When they walked in, they both kind of paused like they were bracing themselves for more drama. "So," Sam said, setting his backpack down, "did you talk to her?" Liz was hovering behind him, trying to act like she wasn't waiting for an answer, but I could see the way her shoulders were tense, like she was ready to bolt at the first sign of bad news. "I did," I said. "And it's over." Liz froze, her eyes going wide. Sam raised an eyebrow, clearly trying to process what I'd just said. "Wait, over?" he asked. "Yeah," I said. "I told her this wasn't working. For me, for you guys, for any of us." She left. Liz let out this audible sigh of relief and plopped down on the arm of the couch. "Good," she said a little too quickly. She was the worst. Sam shot her a warning look, but I just shook my head. "It's okay. I get it. And honestly, you're not wrong. I should have seen it sooner, but I didn't, and I'm sorry for that." For everything. For the first time in what felt like weeks, the tension in the room started to ease. Liz even cracked a small smile, though she quickly hid it behind her phone. Sam nodded, looking a little less guarded than he had the day before. "I'm proud of you, Dad," he said after a moment. "I know that couldn't have been easy." "It wasn't," I admitted, "but it was the right thing to do. And from now on, I'm going to make sure I'm putting you guys first. No more trying to force something that doesn't fit." That night, we ordered pizza and watched bad action movies together in the living room, just like we used to before Amanda came into the picture. It wasn't some grand, emotional bonding moment. It was simple, easy, and exactly what we needed. The months that followed weren't exactly a walk in the park. Amanda tried to reach out a few times, first through texts and then through social media. She even posted this long, dramatic message about how hard it was to love someone who wasn't ready to love again. It was full of half-truths and self-pity, and while it annoyed me at first, I eventually just let it roll off my back. What mattered was that I'd made the right call for me and my kids, and I wasn't about to let her guilt me into second-guessing that. Sam and Liz, on the other hand, seemed to bounce back pretty quickly. Liz started spending more time downstairs, which was a nice change from her usual routine of hiding in her room with her headphones on. Sam even started coming home more often on weekends, and we had some really good talks about his future, his friends, and even some of the things he'd been holding back about Amanda. Like how she'd made little comments here and there that made him feel unwelcome, or how she'd tried to steer conversations away from anything that involved Kayla. Hearing that stuff was tough, but it also made me even more certain that I'd done the right thing. Amanda wasn't a bad person, but she wasn't the right person for us. And honestly, I don't blame her for struggling to fit into a situation that was never going to be easy. Blending families is hard, and I think she underestimated just how hard it would be. But that doesn't excuse the way she handled it, or the way she hurt my kids in the process. A year later, life looks a lot different. Sam's thriving at college. He's got an internship lined up for next summer, and he's even talking about grad school. Liz is in her junior year of high school, and she's absolutely crushing it on the debate team. She's still a teenager with all the attitude that comes with it, but our relationship has gotten so much stronger. She actually talks to me now, and not just in that obligatory, "Can you sign this permission slip?" kind of way. She tells me about her friends, her classes, even the boys she likes but swears she doesn't. As for me, I've learned a lot about myself over the past year. For one, I realized that I wasn't really in love with Amanda. I was in love with the idea of moving on, of finding happiness again. But you can't force that. It has to happen naturally, and it has to be with someone who truly fits into your life, not just someone who checks a box. I also realized that I'd been holding on to a lot of guilt about Kayla's death, like I had to make up for the fact that she wasn't here anymore by trying to fix everything for the kids. But they didn't need me to fix things. They just needed me to be there for them. These days, I'm not in a rush to date or find someone new. I'm focused on being a dad, on building the kind of life that Kayla would have wanted for us. And you know what? I'm okay with that. For the first time in a long time, I feel like we're in a good place. A real place. And that's enough for me.